Hey guys, this is Aaron from Punks for Progress. I'm here with a video from the demonstration in solidarity with the prisoners' hunger strike at Folsom Prison just this past Sunday, June 4th. The video I'm going to show you is of every person that spoke at the demonstration. There's about 7 or 8 different speakers from various different backgrounds, some ex-prisoners, there's an attorney, there's people who work in transitional programs for people directly out of prison, and then that helps facilitate their ability to get into college. So there's a number of really interesting speakers, and just people who have lived through this type of thing before, and they're going to tell you their accounts of it. So it's super interesting. Just before we get into it, what I wanted to do is read you the basic list of demands that they're basically the reason why they're holding a hunger strike. And then explain a little bit what they list here about kind of what's at stake in taking on what's ultimately a very dangerous decision to do a hunger strike in prison. So anyway, their demands are as follows. Number 1, provide adequate access to courts and legal assistance. 2, provide meaningful education, self-help courses, and rehabilitative programs. Allow possession of televisions. Provide exercise equipment, including pull-up bars for managed exercise in the yard. And cruelty, noise, and sleep deprivation of welfare checks. Keep original proper packaging for commissary and canteen. Give non-disciplinary status to qualifying prisoners. Provide adequate and appropriate clothing and shoes. And provide food bowl and cup. Now, I'll provide a link in the description box to where you can see broader descriptions of each of one of these demands and why they're significant. And again, that'll be in the description box. And so now I just want to read you a few things that they list, which are what the hunger strikers face. So possible disciplinary action, and I would think possible is probably a bit generous. Retaliation by prison officials. Abuse, further denial of their basic human rights during the hunger strike, and long-term health consequences, and extreme physical weakness from starving and woefully inadequate medical care. So yes, while they're in the midst of the hunger strike, they're susceptible and their bodies are weak, and obviously they're not getting the nourishment that they need, but engaging in this type of activity has very long-term physical effects and obviously emotional and effects and stuff too, but these hunger strikers know that this is going to have long-term lasting effects on their body, and they still feel it's that desperately needed, what it is that they're doing this for. So before I get into the video, I just wanted to also direct you to, if anyone's interested in just kind of helping in other sorts of services for prisoners. I mean, can always use more people standing on the street carrying signs and just letting prisoners know that they're not alone in there. But if you want to do a little more than that as well, a great group that does just a hell of a lot for prisoners is the Prisoners Literature Project. They've provided thousands and thousands of books for prisoners, and they also, they write to them. They do correspondence with them, and they're really excellent. And you'll see also in the videos some speakers from a number of other groups that just offer really incredibly, desperately needed services for prisoners. For instance, a couple of the people who are going to speak, the program or the group that they're with, they provide sort of transitional services to help people actually leave prison and then get an education, and a lot more than that. And anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and let you get into it. And if you do find the video informative, please share it with anyone you would like, and make sure to subscribe to our page, Punks for Progress, and then please like or share our stuff on Facebook, and then on Twitter it's punks4progress. So thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I also want to thank my family, who I asked if they wanted to go to another prison rally, and they, without hesitation, signed up to stand out here and advocate. Yeah, in 2002, I drove up that road in a bus, and it was truly one of my most frightened moments of my life because of the reputation that this place has. Here in the middle of all of this paradise lives some of the most endangered and helpless and just embattled people in our state. And the prison that I left 2 years later isn't the prison we have today. Today, the prison that is being ran in California is very psychological. It's very compartmentalized, set up to turn one person against the other. It's set up to defeat resistance at every level. So to have this kind of effort where people are not just depriving themselves of the comfort of food and this health and safety of food, but putting their liberty at risk, because if you're a lifer, that goes in your jacket. And if you're not a lifer, then you're just giving up some straight up freedom, because you're probably going to get written up for participating in a group disturbance. And the fact is that the outlook for victory on the inside, there's no history of victory on the inside.
That's right.
Right? So for them to do that just humbles me so much.
Thank you.
Friend,
should know how to handle these things by now. There you go. Okay, what I live. All right, friends, all my relations. This is Folsom prison. We're out in front of, and my name is Bato, and along with a lot of other comrades that are here, a lot of the other comrades that were here. Also, we're involved with the historic hunger strike at Pelican Bay. And that hunger strike went 60 days. And it was the third strike that the prisoners inside said, this is it, do or die, we're going to go all the way. And through a lot of hardships, 60 days is a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Inside, they've been on this hunger strike for...
I'm sorry, we want to hear you. Can I hold this up for you?
Yeah, hold that for me.
There you go. Go ahead. I can hold it for you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, you can hear me. I got a loud voice. I'm good. Thank you. 1978, that's a long time before a lot of you were born. I was telling my comrade Suniata, there he is, he's always in the background. We were up here on another hunger strike in 1978. That's a long time ago. It was in 4A at the time. And one of our comrades, Hugo Antonio Pinel from Nicaragua, rest in peace, my brother. They killed him at New Folsom, 2015, August 12th. And at the time he was in this 4A housing unit. Of course, me and my comrades, the rest of the San Quinten Six, we had gotten free. He didn't get free. And he died in prison, Hugo Antonio Pinel. But Suniata says, oh, I seen the picture. I seen the picture because they let us march around in here. That's 40 years ago. And I'm holding a picket sign that you could say 4A on. It says 4A, but it's a hunger strike. And it didn't have the issues then, and we miss the issues now because it's never changed. It's always the basic issues. Guys inside, they want a life. And correction isn't what it ever was, and it's even worse now because they do everything to crush you in there, everything, to break your spirit. And that's the way prisons are today. It's the hunger strikers at Pelican Bay, they were all hardcore. There have been thousands and thousands of prisoners that were broken, that debriefed, and that, you know, they're on what they call special needs yard, soft yard, somewhere else in the prison system. The whole California Department of Corrections, the prisons, half of them are rat yards, or rat prisons. That's where they got debriefers. That's what they do, and they break you down, make you confess to a special group of Supremos that come from Sacramento to hear your confession, record you, and then you're certified as being debriefed, no longer a threat to society, and then they put you somewhere else. These guys that are in here to do what they're doing, you gotta be hardcore, and you can believe that a lot of them are lifers, so they ain't got no other choice. They're going to die very slowly in there. And now we give them encouragement because they heard about another hunger strike somewhere else, and then the hunger strikes in Atlanta, and then in Menard, and Alabama, faraway places where people have been. Palestine, 40 years, they went 40 days in Palestine, and they hear about that. They say, prisoners have a way to fight back, but we must be willing to die, possibly. And none of the prisoners that came out of the 60-day hunger strike, none of them are right anymore. They lost their organs, they lost their kidneys, they lost whatever, they lost their health. Ain't never going to be right. You know, these guys, I don't know how long they plan to go. But once again, they ain't got nothing to lose. They ain't got anything out here to hang on for in a lot of ways. And it's just real sad because they're all good guys. It hurts me especially because I have a close friend who worked for the Department of Corrections, quit, and she told me some astounding shit. She says they wanted her to concentrate on the hard cases, the hard nuts, the ones that don't want to get broken, to concentrate on them and use her influences to break them down because there are all these fucking Mexicans from LA that never say quit. You just leave them there for centuries and they'll just stay there. They'll die. Right? That's just the way some of the homies grow up, man. They had nothing out here to begin with. They ain't got nothing to come back to. That's who these guys are. They've been vilified, classified into being hardcore gangsters and shit. Gang members and shit. But we already know that when it comes to crunch, push and crunch, John Gotti had his best friend turn him in. And that was a major gangster. But he been on a hunger strike? I don't think so. Sammy the Bull got away with 19 murders and became a hero. He got free and everything, walked away. John Gotti went to prison in Colorado, Florence, and I happened to have a close friend that was down the tier from him. He said, yeah, he's hardcore, man. He ain't never going to give it up. My friend is in the same cell block with him, maximum security. Florence ain't never going to give it up either, but they ain't got a life. They'll never get out. Never get out. So if we don't have these guys as hardcore models, revolutionaries, rebels inside who say, hey, we'll go all the way and I won't quit on you if you don't quit on me. That's what it's all about. And you can't have in the same mix people that got hope. People that you can't have them in the same mix. That's your weak link in the chain. You gotta be hardcore. So these guys here, It wouldn't be surprised for me to see them, some of them get really, really messed up from that hunger strike. So that's all I want to say. They're going back to 78. Hugo Antonio Pinel with a bunch of other comrades that we don't even know anymore marched around in that circle, and then I went on with my life. And he stood in there another 40 years before the Department of Corrections deliberately killed him because they want to kill us. They want to kill these rebels. They're a disease that spreads liberation, freedom, free thought, action. It spreads through the system, and they don't want that.
Yeah.
They're going to stamp it out. And the way you stamp that out, you stamp out the leadership. So we give all our support, especially to the mother. I don't know if she's here. The mother, Morales, Anthony's mother. I don't know if she's around. She's running around like crazy trying to get some help. And that's what mothers do. That's what my sisters did for me years and years and years since I was a kid doing time. It's the women, it's the mothers, the families, the ones that really care. They got love in their heart. That's who's here. See, there's no profit motive. They can't even help themselves. So that's what we got. We're here, show a presence. The guards are going to lie to them, tell them, oh, nobody showed up for your sorry ass.
That's going on,
They
mine.
will find out.
They're gonna find out.
They will find out and give them heart because they got a long ways to go. 10 days is just like the first step. The friends, relations, when I lay up, I'm glad everybody's here. Took the time to listen to me because I tell you what I tell you, and what I know is a hard way to go. But I lay hail. Keep it going.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you, Lazo, very much for sharing. And for reminding us that, yes, retaliation has already happened in this hunger strike. We are in day 10. We know for a fact that men who organized this said they were committed to 21 days. Part of the isolation and the repression is that it is hard to get in touch with people who are currently locked up down that road. We are in touch with them, but it takes time. You know, it's delayed. But there's someone here who had a visit on Saturday. So we do have some updates to share with you. And the retaliation in this case looks like doing special transfers for men who were participants and organizers of this peaceful hunger strike and sending them off to other places where they're no longer here in Folsom. It also looks like threatening to write them up with something called a 115 for causing a mass disturbance. And what that does is also categorize them as gang leaders, something they call security threat group members. And their language is something that we need to always be wary of and not trust, because that is what we're out here protesting in the first place, is the way that CDCR dehumanizes and categorizes people and calls them gang leaders when we're talking about people's husbands, brothers, cousins, loved ones, sisters, mothers. And we know that when you threaten the institution and you're critical of CDCR, that's what they call a mass disturbance. That's what they call a threat, because it is threatening to what they're doing, locking up mass amounts of people in this type of isolation. So thank you again for being out here. Next, I want to invite up someone who came up from Berkeley today, Tony Landers. Tony is part of a super badass organization called Underground Scholars. He's a formerly incarcerated UC Berkeley student who has experienced solitary while incarcerated in California. Underground Scholars is an organization you should know. They are out of Berkeley and they're working to create a pathway for formerly incarcerated and system-impacted individuals to higher education, what they are calling building a prison-to-school pipeline through recruitment, retention, and advocacy. So please welcome up Tony to the mic.
Yeah.
Everybody hear me back there? Good? All right. Cool, good. Thank you. I want to start off by saying thank you, everybody, for coming out. And I just wanted to share a little piece that I wrote last night with you regarding today. Good afternoon, and thank you all for coming out in support of the Folsom Prison Hunger Strike. I'm here in solidarity as a formerly incarcerated person who was sentenced as an adult at the age of 17. I served 2 shoe terms.
Damn.
And within that time, never received any type of meaningful rehabilitative services at all. I'm also here today with the Underground Scholars. The Underground Scholars is really critical for me in real life and making the connections between everything going on. One of our founders here today, Steven actually, really good, solid individual, also experienced the shoe. The fact that we can share that and connect these dots and continue this work is extremely important. With the experience of being locked in solitary confinement as a youth, I quickly realized the purpose of the shoe, and it's plain and clear. It's to break you mentally, physically, and spiritually. It's critical to be mindful of the history of prisons and institutions like the shoe. The institutions that we know today are all models of colonization and slavery. Confinement, torture, deprivation, enslavement, beatings, the onslaught of tactics have not stopped. 500 years later, and we're still seeing the same old song and dance. We're looking at a reformed model of what used to exist. The only difference is that through ideology and reforms, the whole system has been reformed to be socially accepted. But do not be mistaken, the end result and the means to achieve that end result is still the same. Most of the folks serving shoe sentences are there for nothing more than being validated, which is an arbitrary process that can essentially place anyone the institution feels is a threat into solitary confinement. I'm sure many of you here today are here because you have firsthand knowledge of a shoe experience or someone you know. There is no rehabilitation involved in the shoe process. Rehabilitation is not placing human beings in cells all day long, deprived of physical contact, deprived of physical stimulation, deprived of access to courts, deprived of meaningful activities. In fact, the opposite is happening. Many of our brothers are experiencing severe, permanent physical and psychological trauma. I would not be here today had it not been for the resilient men I met through my incarceration and through my shoe experience. These folks who have often been stigmatized are the ones who taught me how to read and write, taught me how to educate myself, and taught me to be resilient and be a righteous individual.
Yeah.
Most importantly, I learned how to survive the struggle of oppression at the hands of this institution. The last thing I want to share with you today is a conversation I had with my brother when he came to visit me in Pleasant Valley State Prison in the shoe. And I had a conversation with him about my dreams, because even in my dreams, I was incarcerated. I couldn't even be free. That little piece of freedom that I had when I was asleep, I couldn't even have that. And when I shared that with him, we have this real meaningful conversation, and it brought me here today and thinking about how many brothers are going through that right now. How many individuals over there going through that in their mind, but yet still unbroken and fully supported by everybody here. They feel that energy in there. And I appreciate every single one of you being here today.
Appreciate
Thank
you, bro.
We're going to invite someone up from the same organization whose name is Abdullah, who's also with the Underground Scholars. So please give him a warm welcome coming all the way from Berkeley as well.
Right, Abdullah!
Assalamu alaikum. How y'all doing?
Good. How about you, brother?
All right.
Welcome to SAC.
Thank you. I just want to thank all of y'all for coming out here. I just want to thank all of y'all for standing out here in solidarity with the people who are hunger striking. I did 9 years in Calipatria State Prison in the South. The dirty South, we call it. But these people up here, they just as dirty. And a couple of times while I was out there, we actually engaged in these type of hunger strikes. And just to reiterate what most of us already know here, but just so we can hear it again and hopefully pass the message on, when people engage in a hunger strike, they're putting their lives on the line.
That's right.
Your health is probably going to be permanently damaged if you continue this hunger strike for a long time. So why do people undertake hunger strikes? Because they're desperate. Think about the desperation it would have to take you to not eat or drink, not eat, for days after days on end. I'm a Muslim. I'm fasting right now. It's the month of Ramadan. So I don't eat for 16 and a half hours, doing every day. And I can't even imagine not breaking my fast at the end of the day. It's extreme. I'm exhausted. When the sun goes down and I eat something, I'm so grateful. Yet these men have decided that they're not even going to do that. Just try it for one day. Anybody who thinks it's not serious, who think these people are playing, who think this is a game, try it for one day. And you understand how serious this is. This is something that we can never, ever take for granted. And I want y'all to understand out here that y'all are part of the solution already. It's important that you standing out here. When you on the inside, you cut off. It's like you're on a different planet.
That's right.
It's like you don't exist.
That's right.
So to know that there's people out here, people in the outer world who still care about you, who are spreading your message and making sure that it gets out, that you don't die in these hellholes forgotten. That is super important. You are the strength that allows them to do what they have to do. So I just want to leave y'all with that.
Thank you. This is how we got word of the hunger strike, and this is how we know it's serious. These men have exhausted every possible avenue they have to get these changes made, which amount to basic human rights that every single individual is entitled to and should never be deprived of. So they go over some of their conditions in this media release, which is why I want to read it. On May 25th, 2017, prisoners in Folsom State Prison Building 4 Administrative Segregation, Solitary Confinement, have started a hunger strike to peacefully protest the conditions of confinement in the Administrative Segregated Unit. Prisoners have exhausted all reasonable remedies with no avail. Further, prisoners have attempted to open lines of communication with administrative officials and have been met with only resistance and silence. Folsom ASU is like stepping back in time to the era when prison officials blanketed the injustice imposed on its solitary confined prisoners and bluntly turned an eye to mistreatment and the stripping away of basic human dignity and elements. At CDCR, the California Department of Corrections made drastic changes throughout its prisons to put prisoners on roads of rehabilitation and more humane living conditions. A lot of these reforms have only happened because of the previous hunger strikes in 2011 and 2013. It's important to remember, they did not decide to fix things on their own accord. We made them fix them. As CDCR made these changes, Folsom officials reject the ideals and continue the injustice of the past. To those reading who may find it hard to believe, just a few years ago, many will recall the same fight took place within security housing units in California, also another word for solitary. The direction, message, and program CDCR implemented for long-term isolation to rehabilitate is ignored, shut out, and rejected here in Folsom ASU. Some might assume the impact of the struggle men endure within the SHU to gain fair, dignified living conditions would have a long-lasting effect. Yet, men stand again just as unified, ready to sacrifice their bodies, health, and life to achieve what has already been hard fought for and accomplished. Why must California prisoners continue to sacrifice health and life, involve lawyers and courts, in order to be treated like human beings? We will continue to remind CDCR officials that they will be held accountable for this type of treatment.
Yes!
Prisoners here are forced to sit or stand idle in their cells or yard cages. Let's be clear about that. These men do not get to go outside. Yard cages, dog kennels, without meaningful exercise, education, or rehabilitative programs. We are already forced to endure atypical and significant hardships due to being in segregated housing and solitary confinement. When taken together, these conditions constitute cruel and unusual punishment under the U.S. Constitution. We are deprived of basic human needs, including normal human contact, environmental and sensory stimulation, mental and physical health, physical exercise, sleep, access to courts, and meaningful activity. Prolonged exposure to these deprivations has caused and will cause serious physical and psychological harm. FSP is deliberately indifferent to prisoners' suffering. They are aware that prolonged social isolation and lack of environmental stimuli causes serious psychological pain and suffering and permanent psychological damage. CDCR is aware, because of a court case we're going to be talking about that came out of the last hunger strike. We have a legal expert here to discuss that. Because of this lawsuit that came out of the previous hunger strikes, CDCR is well aware that the conditions of extreme isolation will likely inflict some degree of psychological trauma, including chronic insomnia, severe concentration and memory problems, anxiety, and other ailments. This is why solitary confinement within CDCR has at least began to provide prisoners with the opportunity to have TVs, pull-up bars, education, and rehabilitative programs. However, Folsom continues to put lack of money as an excuse to not fall in line with CDCR's stated goals, and they are content to ignore the suffering of men in its care. We continue to be confined alone in our cells with only misery for company. And this part pertains to us. Unfortunately, our voice in here can be drowned out by administration or people like that in their cars who don't know what they're talking about. But those of us out here can help by making their voices heard and concerned with their treatment. They say, we urge you to call and email all officials, which we've been doing relentlessly, and ask questions on the conditions here and make sure procedures are met for those hunger striking.
Everybody say revolution!
Revolution!
You can kill the revolutionary, but you cannot stop the revolution! I haven't been up here to the prison since the last time I visited my dad before he was murdered. I'm here today to stand with those who are standing for their constitutional rights. It is our right as family members, as advocates, and as citizens of this United States of America to stand in the gap for them. It is our right. It is our right to love our prisoners.
Yeah.
It is our right to let them know that their worst case situation, whatever it was that got them there, does not mean that that is the total sum of who they are.
That's right.
These are our family members.
Fucking in.
These are our loved ones. Yep. We will never stop fighting for them. Never.
Yeah.
Now repeat after me. We hear you.
We hear you.
We see you.
We see you.
We fight for you.
We fight for you.
We love you.
We love you.
No matter what.
No matter what.
We put a demand on CDCR to do their job.
Yeah.
We put a demand on CDCR to stop with the 115s.
Yeah.
You can't write me up. You can't write us up. So you're going to continue to see us out here until you do your job.
Yeah.
Abide by the Constitution. prisoners' rights.
Yeah.
So I'm fired up, as y'all can see.
Yeah.
I'm fired up too.
I'm just a cheerleader in another body, I guess. But I'm a protester at heart. I'm a community advocate for the Fruit Ridge Manor community. I fight on behalf of prisoners, young adults, and veterans of the United States of America. Woo! I am here as a protester.
Yeah.
This is our right to protest. This is our job to stand in the gap for those who cannot fight for themselves. Those men who are laying down their lives know that they're putting their lives on the line. But just like my dad used to say, he only wished he could do more. Sure, they wish they could do more. Why? To be treated as a human being.
Yeah.
It's a common courtesy. They're already punished and in jail. I mean, what more can you do?
Yeah.
Hello. Right. You can try to break them. You might get some, but you won't get them all. And you can't kill them all. Woo! Woo! Long live the spirit of the revolutionary. Woo! Racinte, Hugo Pinel, I love you, Daddy!
I love you, Daddy!
Cheerleader for the revolution. Thank you so much for giving us that energy. Prisoner Hunger Strike Solidarity Coalition, also my personal hero in life, Be Like Penny. And she's going to share some stuff with us today as well. So let's give her a round of applause. Thanks for coming up, Penny.
Thank you very much. We have a lot of work to do in the schools. The kindergartens are being pipelined into prison programs. The kids in the primary schools, it's from school to prison pipeline for youngsters of color and poor people who are white. Also, we have a lot of work to do to break up these campus recruiting stations and on and on. Thank you very much for this demonstration. I'm impressed. We need more signs. We need more literature. And Bato wants to mention that we have many meetings once a week, every week since 2011. And the notes are online around the Prisoner Hunger Strike Coalition. This is a very important meeting every week. We hear from the attorneys like Ann, Carol, a whole bunch of people tune in and let us know what's going on in the courts and the legislature. We need to walk the halls. PHSS is going to start going to Sacramento more frequently and take half-sheet flyers, leave them on legislators' desks. Yes. That's as good as writing a letter.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Power to the people.
Power to the people!
People to share with us today, and then I know there's folks here who are directly impacted by this and have things to say, so I'll definitely want to invite you up here after that, if you so please. Sunyana is going to get on the mic now and has a few words to share with us as well.
Hello, my name is Sunyana.
Hello, sir. Nice and close. Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
I'm glad to be here to stand in support of those who are being tortured inside. I am a person who have also been inside and have been incarcerated in the adjustment centers, in the segregation units, in the so-called shoes. I know what it's like when I was down, and my understanding is that it's even worse now.
Worse.
And for a fact, solitary confinement affects your mind. It has an impact on you that can cause you to lose your mind.
Yeah.
And I feel for those that are locked down in those holes, suffering. You know what? When you get convicted, they send you to prison, but they don't send you to solitary confinement. That's something that the prison do. Anyway, all I wanted to do was share a few words of solidarity with those inside. Let them know that, hey, they're not forgotten and they are loved. I stand with all of those who oppose solitary confinement. Long live those who struggle against injustice, and long live the memory of those who have sacrificed their life to make this a better world.
Long live the spirit of George Jackson! Long live the world! All the other fallen comrades in prison that have been in this struggle since the beginning, going back 40 years.
Yes.
And their spirits are with us today. Oh, yes. Well, it. Emma.
Hear me? Okay, great. Hi. Hi. My name is Paul, and I came. Okay. My name is Mariposa McCall. My name is Dr. Mariposa McCall. So I used to work with CCR. That's a psychiatrist. And let's see, I worked at Pelican Bay doing telepsychiatry work. So I would see a lot of the guys from my office at San Quinten through video conferencing. And I would hear a lot of, their stories and their challenges and a lot of the retaliation. And I would witness firsthand in treatment meetings how disrespectful custody views, our fellow men. And often they would be called trash and garbage and be so very happy to be kicking them out of treatment. CDCR, they speak of rehabilitation, and as a psychiatrist, it is filled with a lot of, there's a lot of deficiencies. Let's put it that way. There's a reason they're under court oversight. 22 years Pelican Bay has been under court oversight, yet they can't get their, program together. When I left, I resigned because I objected a little too much to some of the stuff that I was being asked to do. Got written up, so I know about retaliation. I've seen it, I heard it, I witnessed it, I experienced it. I resigned and I promised the guys that I worked with, that I would try to do what I could from the outside, because I just couldn't fight the system. And the system is very twisted. There are two standards, there are two set of laws. They do what they want. They're able to hide behind policies and regulations that are invoked when it's convenient. It's not right. The guys there, they're trying to follow the rules, but the rules keep changing, and they're not written down. What is the policy? It should be consistent throughout CDCR, not changing through one prison to the other. It creates a lot of confusion, conflict, unnecessarily. The custody guards, I don't want to vilify the whole system. There are some good people, but the ones that make it very difficult, and it corrupts the moral compass of what is promised. Rehabilitation is very skeletal. And you know what? That is something that us as a community need to push toward.
because there are a lot of people in need there. When I left Pelican Bay, July of 2016, there were 2 full-time psychiatrists. The same number of psychiatrists that were staffed when the Madrid case came to be in 1994. Now, that's incredible, unbelievable. And what I am most concerned about right now is recently I heard from colleagues in the Department of Mental Health, the state hospitals where we send our loved ones up for more care because prison is not equipped to deal with mental illness. Prison is not treatment. We have 25% of our 25% of the prisoners have mental illness compared to the 4% of the general population. We have a problem. Our community has a problem. We need to invest in our community services so that we do not feed the system. 25% of prisoners have mental illness, but the staffing, they're understaffed. There is a 40-something vacancy rate for psychiatrists. 47 or something like that. They are constantly recruiting. In fact, there's my friends that are still there, they're always asking me, come back, come back. But, the system makes it really hard to provide proper care. When you object to unsafe practices, you will get written up. The message will be delivered in seconds. That's what happened to me. Bogus write-ups, the grievance process is a bogus. The guys know that, I know that. You provide the evidence, and they will dismiss it, and will not say why the evidence is not sufficient. So, I think this is wonderful. What I heard most from the guys, what they need most is to know that they have not been forgotten. Human connection is essential. It defines us as human beings. When they start shipping you off away from your families up to Pelican Bay, where there's nothing there. Families cannot contact them. They can't afford to go up there. Calls are constantly being interrupted. Mail is constantly being confiscated. The connections are broken. And we know that human connection is our number one protecting factor in preventing suicide. Suicide and self-injurious behavior is rampant in the prison system. Not to mention solitary confinement. Solitary confinement is torture. United Nations has declared that more than 15 days of solitary confinement is defined as torture. We need to put pressure on organizations like the American Psychiatric Association to stand in solidarity with our humanity. We need to push them, demand that they, in no uncertain terms, say that solitary confinement can cause permanent psychological damage. Now I know, I've written to some of the guys in the SHU, they will not seek psychiatric help because, why? Because of all the travesties that they are very much aware in the past about the collusion between psychologists, psychiatrists, and government. They will suffer in silence until they cannot no more. They will hurt themselves
And they ask why. Oh, it's manipulation, it's malingering. They want to go to the inpatient hospital. No, these men are suffering. And they've held in all that torture, all that pain until they could not no more. Solitary confinement should not exist.
That's right, that's right. Say that.
And ASEC is a euphemism for that. I am in agreement. I work with the ASEC guys at Pelican Bay and San Quinten, and that is worse than solitary confinement. They will remove your property, so you have nothing but those four walls closing in on you. Anyways, that's just my experience firsthand. I know that this is real. What they say are not lies. What they say is not manipulation. It is the truth. But CDCR will not allow us to know that. They will hide behind policies and reform and say they're doing something, and courts will push them to do things. But you know what? The culture is such that it will not make much difference. And we know that because 40 years later, it's gotten worse. Right. They've gotten more savvy on how to hide the irregularities. I witnessed some of those irregularities working there. Our programs were often over capacity, overflows when other units where people could not get their proper treatment. The minute there was a known auditor at the door, by golly, they shipped those guys out. Quick. We cannot not abide by regulations. But it's all convenience. And there's a lot of games that happen.
Sent him to a different prison in Tracy. So she's here to share with us. Please give her one more warm welcome.
Okay. We are here today to share for the prisoners in Folsom ASU. After months of being ignored by the CDCR, they decided to go on a peaceful hunger strike in hopes that it would shed a light on their horrendous.
Take this thing off and just hold that.
There you go, girl.
On their horrendous living conditions and lack of dignity the CDCR provides them. The CDCR has met them with threats and retaliation in efforts to try and silence their cry for help. So we stand here today united and speaking for those prisoners to let the CDCR know that we will not back down until their rights as a human being are fully met. Thank you guys for showing up. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate it. It's amazing when one simple email can do and just have everyone just show up. It's amazing. It's a great feeling. It's heartwarming.
Oh, that's right, we switched. Just making sure you're paying attention. You are, good. So I want to next have Ann get on the mic. Ann Wiles came up from the Bay Area as well. And she is an attorney who worked on the class action lawsuit that was part of the 2011 and 2013 hunger strike. So please give her a warm welcome as well.
Thank you, you guys, for coming. This is an amazing turnout, given where we are in this desolate, whatever place. Not so desolate, obviously. Some of our prisons, like Calipatria, where Abdullah was, and you could go into the whole thing. But I got involved in this ASTRA litigation in 2011 when the hunger strike at Pelican Bay happened. There were 3 different strikes that year, starting in July and then through September. A bunch of lawyers wanted to go into court to stop the hunger strike. This is an incredible story in a way, because the CDCR in its stupidity put the most brilliant, brave, courageous men of major organizations in California's prisons, the ME, the BGF, New Africans they're called, and the AB, and the Norteños, Familia. Anyway, so these men were in the same part of the Pelican Bay Shoe called the Short Corridor, and they were all put in the same cell block. And over the years, they became very close friends, comrades, and they decided to risk their lives, not just for themselves, and this is in their own, literature, media. They did it because they did not want young prisoners to suffer the horrors of Pelican Bay. And I've studied torture now for decades, before I got into this litigation. This system is set up to torture people, to break them, as was said by Abdullah and others. This is a system calculated to break down a human being to the point that they will be submissive and cooperate in any of the horrors that they want you to do. Just basically go insane. And I could go through a lot of history here. If anybody wants to talk to me after, I'm glad to. But basically, so the 2011 hunger strike happened. Scott Kernan, who is now CDCR secretary, was Jerry Brown's, first, he was the undersecretary for CDCR. He came up and negotiated what was hopefully some changes in the Pelican Bay Shoe. They did not even have cups. They did not have bowls. They were freezing during the winters because that was a very cold climate up there. Ultimately, that hunger strike, they won some beanies, some sweatpants, a few minor things. Basically, the state betrayed their agreement with those folks, and ultimately in 2013, they decided to strike again starting in July. But before that, in late 2012, they put out what is called the Agreement to End Hostilities. Now, this is an extraordinary document. Unbelievable, because what it said, and it had about 24 signatures, basically, of all the different organizations, that, were powerful in our prisons, saying we will step down. We do not want to fight each other. Our greater struggle is against the system, is against the people who run CDCR, who don't care about us, who want to harm us, who want to torture us, whatever. So they stood together, they put out this call for the hunger strike, and they said, you don't have to do this. If you feel you're sick or you have problems, you don't have to do it. But 30,000 men and a few women presumably went on strike on, I think, July 12th, 2013. And it was a huge bombshell. The whole state of California, the AG's office, the Attorney General's office, CDCR's lawyer, they just totally freaked out. There was amazingly positive media, partly because 30,000 men were coming out and saying, these are the conditions that we live by, and they had 5 core demands about basically not having collective punishment, decent food. There's I can go into that later if you want, but basically, Steve, they stood together for 60 days, and as others have spoken before me, unbelievable bravery. I was up there every week with these men, because as a lawyer I can visit 2 days a week, and you can see them shrinking before your very eyes. Some men, actually, I call them sort of bionic, because they survived that strike, and they didn't have any, physical or mental, kind of terrible side effects. Some had serious eyesight effects, some had, I won't go into all the medical, but there is a lot of people who suffered and still suffer. But the worst thing, so basically the litigation, I can go through that, but the litigation ultimately was settled in late 2015 to get 2,000 plus men out of solitary confinement. These men had been put in there in an administrative decision based on, that's the attitude, right? Based on their being allegedly in a gang. And a lot of these people, whatever, that's a whole other discussion, but they were quote unquote validated, put in the shoe indefinitely unless you snitched. That was the issue. You had no way out unless you snitched. And our guys, the leaders of the hunger strike and their followers and their 30,000 people said, no way, we're not going to go along with it. They risked their lives. Ultimately, coming out of that were a number of hearings in Sacramento against solitary confinement. And we even had Lonnie Hancock and a bunch of legislators who tried to basically ban solitary confinement in California, but the legislators are still too weak to really take on the prison guards union and the forces, the law enforcement, lobbies in the state of California. But so we settled in 2015 late, and so we've been in our second year monitoring the settlement agreement, but what we're seeing now is there is, and others of you know more than I, but there is a struggle within CDCR. There is on a spectrum, there's the right-wing, reactionaries, racist, unbelievably hateful people who were furious about this settlement. Yes. Because they thought these 2,000 plus men, they think they're all going to do bad stuff, and they wanted to put them in forever, for the rest of their lives, and they lost. So as a result of that, and this is, I think, what's happening at Folsom, so now you cannot put someone in solitary confinement based on the settlement agreement, based on the fact that they're a validated so-called gang member, right? But what they're doing now, and there is still solitary confinement in California, unfortunately, and that's a whole other story, legally and otherwise, but they can only put you in solitary for if you have a determinate sentence, and that's 5 years max. And you can only do 1 year at Pelican Bay, because there's no light there, there's no natural, there's no nothing for the most part. But what they're doing, the reactionaries, the counter kind of reform within CDCR, is to basically put people in ADSEG, in administrative segregation, because they cannot put them in the SHU anymore. So these, ADSEG is supposed to be used, you get in a fight, you put them in there, you do the investigation, you put them wherever. But no, they're keeping them there indefinitely. And actually part of our monitoring is we're going to court every month, fighting with our judge, or fighting with the AG's office and CDCR lawyers to say, you're misusing this, you're using the ADSEG and ADSEG, interestingly, is worse than the SHU in the sense you don't have appliances, you don't have radios, you don't have TVs, and you can hardly have any literature, anyway, it is actually more repressive, than the SHU, terrible comparison. But anyway, these men are so brave, and I want to say that we have all these men that are coming out of the SHU. Actually, you're talking 10 years at the minimum in the SHU. And none of them are having a lot of what we call post-SHU syndrome, because they have been permanently damaged as a result of their isolation in terms of their mental health, their brains have been affected, their bodies have been affected. I mean, it is cruel. I mean, it's still cruel and unusual punishment. And some of the lawyers have been fighting with CDCR to actually have a transition program where you're coming out of solitary all these years and you get a special kind of programming and all kinds of ways to make you feel halfway decent. But no, CDCR puts these men in the level 4s. They're the most violent levels of our prisons. So you're coming out of a SHU, you haven't been around a person for years or decades, and all of a sudden there's all these people, some of them want to do you harm, they're confused. So we're having a lot of men who are decompensating, and then at that most vulnerable point, they're being asked to debrief. They're being asked to snitch. They're being said, you will only be safe if you go to that SMY yard or if you go to this other yard. So it's like, talk about a constant struggle. I mean, you make a little bit of a dent in this horror, in this torture, system, and then they figure out a way to get back at you. And there's a whole history there. But I just so appreciate you guys coming out. I mean, we have to build. The only reason I think, to a great extent, the hunger strike of 2013 is the reason we were successful in this litigation. But it had to do with family members, like Danelle's daughter here, and all these people around the California, legal people, activists. But that's what we have to do again for this prison strike, but also ongoing. We have to tear down the walls here. But thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much. All of that information is really important, and this is the kind of bureaucratic, nitty-gritty terminology and categories that they're using, and it's hard to follow, but we have to follow it because it's how they